Hello again everybody and welcome back to Higher PE. This is week 6, lesson 4. Hopefully you found yesterday's lesson or the prior day's lesson on feedback interesting and got some good understanding out of it. Remember, you should have completed the tasks within that because it's going to help you for your consolidation lesson at the end of the week. And same for this one today. So today's lesson is on goal, or what you might call target setting, and let's get into it. The learning intention for today's lesson. By the end of the lesson, I will know the 2 types of goals. By the end of the lesson, I will know what should be considered when setting goals and why this is the case. By the end of the lesson, I will be able to describe short and long-term goals for each factor we have covered in Higher PE. And those descriptions will be really effective and good. So describing goals. How do we even begin to think about this? Well, there's 2 different types of goals. These are short-term goals and long-term goals. A short-term goal in our Higher PE would be considered as 1 day or 1 session. A long-term goal would usually be a unit of work or a PDP that we're completing. So your long-term goal for that factor development. So, we need to be able to check and change what would be wrong with these descriptions of short-term and long-term goals. But you can't do that without the knowledge that we're going to teach you today. So here's 2 examples of not very good goals here. So we've got short-term goal here. It's we will have completed box breathing. And the long-term goal in another factor could be we will have reduced my 50-metre sprint time. Now these goals aren't very effective, probably won't be effective, and won't be very helpful when you are planning your performance development process. Because goal setting is all to do with your performance development planning. You would consider goals when you're planning your PDP, and these aren't very good. So, if we need to describe goals, we need to make sure that they are SMART goals. So we need to be able to describe a SMART short-term goal, and we need to be able to describe a SMART long-term goal. And this would look more like this, and we're going to go into this in a moment. So a SMART short-term goal would look more like this. I will have completed box breathing for my concentration 3 times by the end of today's session, which is 50 minutes. And a coach would have agreed to that. A long-term goal here would be, I will have reduced my 50-metre sprint time in 4 weeks by 1 second. And a coach would have agreed with that as well. And that's because goals should be SMART. You should consider this when setting your short and long-term goals. So goals should be specific to you and your weakness. You shouldn't have goals which say, we will do this, or we will do that. It should include what the weakness is, and it should be about you. So does your goal provide a specific situation you want to achieve your goal in? Goals should also be measurable. Is it easy to measure if you've achieved your goal? Does it make use of figures that allow for ease of comparisons? Put a number on it. Agreed. Have you agreed these with a coach or a teacher? They usually have a high level of knowledge and will be able to give you confidence and assurance that the goal you've set is appropriate for you to take forward, and you can do so with intent. Is your goal realistic? Is your goal challenging but not too overreaching? Does it make use of your data collection results or past performances in recent training sessions? So for example, if you got 14.3 in a 100-metre sprint, is it realistic for you to set a goal of achieving 9 seconds in a 100-metre sprint? Considering that's an Olympic target, I don't think that would be. What would happen to you as a result if you set your target far too high? But at the same time, what would happen to you if you set your goal too low? Have a think about that. Is your goal timely? Does your goal provide an end date that you want to achieve this by? This will give you further incentive to achieve it by then, but it will also let you know whether you've achieved it in the time or does it need to be adapted. So why should goals be SMART? I'm going to give you the answers to these because this is something that you're just going to have to learn and understand there, but hopefully it's quite clear. So PEE, because that's how we answer explain questions apart from impact and performance questions. So point, example, explain. So your point is goals should be specific. For example, you make your goals specific to your weakness or needs. And key thing there is your. We're not looking at it as a class, it should be your weakness or needs. Explain, meaning it is relevant to you and more likely to be met. If a teacher said to a whole class, right, everybody together, I want you to do this exercise 43 times. Not everybody in the class is going to meet it, and it's not relevant and specific to each person. So if we make it relevant and specific to each person and you plan your own specific goal, it's more likely to be met. Second one, goals should be measurable. Example. For example, making it easier to measure with use of figures and numbers. So meaning it allows for ease of comparison or knowledge of completion. If you say you're going to complete box breathing 3 times in one session, you'll know that by the time you've done it 3 times, that's your goal met. Whereas if your goal was just simply, I'll complete box breathing as many times as I like in a session, you won't know when to finish. You won't know whether it's been effective or not. So putting a number on it can motivate you, and also allows for ease of comparison and knowledge of completion. Goals should be agreed. For example, it is agreed with a coach or a teacher. Explanation for this is meaning you can trust their knowledge and move forward with intent. So once you've set your goal, just get it backed up by your coach or your teacher, and that'll give you even more motivation to move forward and try and complete it because you know it's appropriate. Point. Goals should be realistic. Example. For example, making your goal challenging but not too overreaching. Meaning you won't become bored or demotivated. Bored if it's not hard enough, demotivated if it's too hard, and you wouldn't progress. Goals should be timely. Example. For example, it should include an end date that you want to achieve this by. Meaning you will know if it's time to adapt or if you've achieved it. So, having all this knowledge and seeing why these goals are far better, if you have a wee look there, than these goals, you should be able to complete your own short-term and long-term goals for all the factors that we've covered. So look at these bad goals here. We will have completed box breathing. We will have reduced my 50-metre sprint time. And look at these SMART goals here. I will have completed box breathing for my concentration 3 times by the end of today's session, 50 minutes, and the coach or your teacher would agree. Now you don't have to seek the coach or teacher to do that because we're going to be looking at them, and I'll tell you why. We are going to complete the following table, and this is what you're going to do for the rest of the lesson. So on an A4 piece of paper, turn it sideways so it's landscape long ways, copy this table down and give yourself plenty room to fill in the boxes. And you can use all of them. These are all our factors at the side. I'd like you to complete your short-term goal descriptions and your long-term goal descriptions for each. Now you'll notice it says confidence or / anger. Choose the one that you did in your class. So my girls netball class, you choose confidence, and for volleyball and football class, you're using anger, so you're obviously not doing both. And the same goes for the physical factor at the very end, which speed would be for my netball class, agility would be for the volleyball class, and flexibility would be for the football class. So you only have to do it for the one that's relevant for you. So we want you to describe your short-term goals and your long-term goals for these factors. So you're going to need to know what approach you were using, how long you did each approach for, and what's relevant to you. Okay? Now, once you've done it in your jotter, your final task is to upload a photo of that in Teams and send it to me in email. Okay? If you are the mixed class or the girls class, You send it to me in email to show me you've done it, and I'm going to have a wee look at it. And for Mr. Douglas' class, email Mr. Douglas just photos of you having done it. And that means we can agree these short-term and long-term goals. So that's the agreed part of the lesson. Okay, thanks very much, folks. Relax and take your time doing it. Go and get a cup of tea before you start it, or a cup of coffee. And that is lesson 4 of the week. And I'll see you for the next lesson soon.